Hello, hello, NHIO. It's the web shop you need to know.
The web shop everybody needs to know. NHIO, it's the web shop.
Web shop you need to know. Tools, decals, files, and much more. Tools and decals, files, and much more. So don't lose time and visit the store. Visit the store. NHIO, NHIO. Spend $50 or if you like even more to enjoy free shipping, free gift of your choice. To enjoy free shipping and free gift of your choice.
Free gift of your choice. NHIO, NHIO, NHIO.
Hello, I'm Nikolas Triantafillou,
I'm Christos Apostolopoulos,
and you're listening to Model Philosopher.
Welcome, listener. My name is Chris, and it's great to have you back again for the Model Philosopher podcast. Before we get into this episode, I would like to welcome our new sponsor, Anish. Tom at Anish has been a great friend for many years, and he produces stunning products for detailing your models. I'm very glad to have Anish on board as a supporter of the show. You can find everything Anish do and everything you will need at anyz.io. That's anyz.io. I'm also very happy to tell you about our other sponsor, Scale Model Challenge. SMC is arguably the best model show in the world, and I never miss it. For more information on the 2025 show, please head on over to scalemodelchallenge.com. The show's not till next October, but it's never too early to start planning your trip. This week's interview is with Nikolas Triantafillou and Christos Apostolopoulos. Nikki and Christos recently collaborated on two pieces exhibited at Scale Model Challenge, around the theme of the Holocaust and Theresientadt camp, models for which they were rewarded with gold in the masterclass. Let's hear from them now. All right, welcome Nikki and Christos to the Model Philosopher.
Thank you for the invitation.
We were talking before we started recording about how quite often it's fun to prepare a big project for a show like Scale Model Challenge. And it's something you might work on for months or even a whole year before you take it along. And I'm really interested in the sort of storyline of how that goes. Now, when it's one person doing it, that's one thing. But when two of you decide to collaborate, there's obviously a lot of negotiation and discussion from the conception all the way through to the execution. So I wanted to kind of dig into that and find out what it's like to work together with a friend on something a bit special for a show like this. So the project we're going to be talking about today is two pieces that you did for Scale Model Challenge. Before we get into sort of the storyline of how that happened, can you just tell us what the pieces are and give us a kind of description? Obviously, there'll be photos put up with the show when it goes out.
The first piece was a scene from Theresientadt concentration camp, which was a camp dedicated to Czech Jews. It was called a family camp, in quotes. And it had different barracks and working times and all that stuff from other camps. So I want to find something different, out of the box. And I saw a poem which was written by an inmate and decided to do it as a vignette. Because when I read it, it brought to me many strong feelings and emotions. And I said, this is one thing that I would really like to do as a tribute to these people. But when I started reading and searching about the Theresientadt camp, I found out many other interesting information. And I decided to do also a second scene because in that camp there were some people who were art professors, and they were elderly, and they decided to make some art classes for the children of the camp to keep them occupied during the labor hours. So it was like a hidden school inside the camp. Had the children paint whatever they wanted to do, like trees and animals and their houses and stuff. And I found a very nice painting from a small girl which had a field of grass and a butterfly. So I have a thing about butterflies, and I thought that would be my second piece because I really wanted to do that. And I found also a picture that they have in the museum of Theresientadt, a suitcase monument, and that did inspire me to do the second scene. It was very strong, and I decided not to put an animal like an insect like a butterfly, but to draw the painting on one of the children's suitcases. So
It was actually hand painted on the
Yeah.
suitcase. Yeah, and actually that's the second piece. Actually, it's a depiction of the actual monument, and we added this child figure which is painted in grayscale, as you see, and that makes it a ghost actually.
So the two pieces are Deliverance and Ghost of Terezin. And this one is Ghost of Terezin.
yes,
Yeah.
Christos, it was your idea first, but when did you decide to make it a collaboration?
I have some skills in sculpting and building things, but my painting skills in figures are not so good. So when I decided that I would do such a thing, my first thought is that because I can't paint really well in like in a figure contest or something, I would do that in black and white. But since me and Nikki are very good friends, we are like brothers, and his skills are far more better than mine. We decided to collaborate and give justice to that piece.
Even tonight, people obviously can't see this, but rather than joining me from your separate homes, you joined me from the same place. So it's like whenever I see you, the other one's always there.
Yeah.
How long have you known each other?
Oh, many years.
Many years, yes.
It's about you see, I was 15 or something, and Chris was 18 or something.
20.
Yeah, 20.
20.
Yeah, 20. So it's about 30 years now. 30 years now.
This is not the first collaboration, then.
No,
No,
no. No, we have done some other works, but that was the first one that actually people saw in a show. We do make things for one another, you know. Chris is building something for me, or correct something for me, amends a problem with a figure or something, and I do some minor painting for him. But these two pieces were our first serious, equally shared, if you like, works.
The collaboration can be quite tricky. I've done it myself a bit in the past. I think unless you have a very good relationship and a very good understanding of what each is going to do, even on the small things where you just do a little bit for each other, then it can be problematic because particularly with competitions, sometimes people can collaborate with someone, then when the piece is entered, it goes under one name and they feel like their work has been denied. So it must It sounds like you have a very sort of easy relationship of how you manage that. That
Yeah.
it's just,
Yes.
you know which what you can do for the other, and you acknowledge each other's contribution and everything else. When it came to do this one, I mean, traditionally, it feels like painters usually take something that a sculptor has made and then make it their own by painting, or maybe some small modification or something like that. With this one, was it planned from the beginning that you would both decide sort of the form of it, the sculpt of it, before it was finished? Nikki, did you have input to Christos about how you wanted it to look, or did you just kind
Yeah.
of let him do it and then paint it?
Actually, he had this solid idea about the figure and how it would stand on the bedside. It was more technical what I asked Chris to do for me, because it is this rather hard to paint stripe scheme on the figure,
Yeah.
So there were some areas like the inner side of the trousers that it would be impossible for me to paint in a striped scheme, if in a striped pattern, if the legs were not separate. So
Right.
so Christos had to actually engineer his sculpting, and so that I can paint it, and then this comes together without a seam or something to amend. It
You make that sound easy.
yeah.
It's not, right?
Believe me, it wasn't, but to us it was a very straight deal. I need the legs to be like this. If you want me to paint them, I need them to be like this. He said, okay, I'll do it. And he made the legs separate, and the fit was so accurate that we just put it together, painted, and that was it. It didn't need anything.
Wow. That's very impressive.
Yeah.
Did you negotiate about the composition, or Chris, was that pretty much your domain?
We did some brainstorming, and after watching our research pictures and stuff, and reading the poem, we decided to do that particular scene because we had to show the yellow butterfly on the hand of the inmate, because the poem was all about a yellow bright butterfly. So the best way to do that was to make the inmate holding the butterfly in his hand, and we had to make the posture artistic, so the viewer can understand what he sees, and the whole thing is quite obvious, I think.
The pose of the figure and the way it sits on the edge of the bed, it was actually Chris' solid idea right from the start. Where I came in was actually the angles, if you know what I mean, the angles that the viewer will be seeing the figure, so that it helps the striped pattern, because it can be dazzling from some angles. So I mostly came in as to how we do the whole scene.
I see what you mean. The lines would be very kind of, they tend to draw the eye in a certain direction.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it in exactly
Yeah.
the right position, then it's going to create a sort of subconscious visual confusion
Yes.
of the forms and what's going on. But also, something I really loved about it was, sorry, I was looking at the poem while I was talking to you as well. Something I love about it is the way that it's very minimal, that the two beds above the one he's sat on are basically only supported by the ladder. So you've not got an excess of background in the piece. The focus is very much on the inmate with his butterfly, but you still get the idea of this dormitory barracks, what have you.
Yeah.
And it's really nicely done from that point of view as well, because it doesn't distract at all from the main focus of the subject.
Yeah,
And that was the sorry, and that was the idea about the jagged-edged base. If you notice, you will see that it is cut
Yeah.
in a jagged pattern, because we only wanted the eye to concentrate on the figure and the butterfly, of course, because it's standing on his finger.
It's quite a small figure, isn't it, for a piece like this? Quite often people might go for sort of 1/16th, 1/20th.
it's 54 millimeter.
It's a little bigger than
Yeah, it's not
35
135.
actually. Yeah.
But it's not the bigger scales that people might associate
No,
with a
no,
single
no.
figure subject you get now. Which means you really do have to work with it, I think, to draw people in, to get them to look at it closely.
Personally, I don't like bigger figures because I don't know, they don't give me the emotion or something. You know, it's very tricky to handle a big figure.
Mm.
You have to do many things to make it have life,
Mm.
because most figures are a little bit stiff, lifeless.
Very formal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very difficult to animate it and get the result that you want.
And it's the same with painting, because you as the scale gets bigger, you have to adjust your painting, especially the facial, the flesh. You have to adjust to bigger scales. There was some time back in the years I went through actually the huge 1/6 scale, and I was into it for about 5 years, and I gained some experience on painting big scale faces, and I found out that the traditional 135 or 54 millimeters techniques were actually they actually didn't fit the scale, because as the scale grows bigger, the light becomes more real, or has real effect on the figure. So you need to do less things. So if we went for a bigger scale, let's say 124 or even 116, I would have to adjust my painting, and trust me, believe me, it wasn't something I would like to do.
Well, I actually kind of like smaller scales because I think, and the figure painters are going to write in. Feel free to write in and tell me I'm terrible, but I kind of feel like at bigger scales, the piece, and what people look for becomes about the painting and the technique and the skill, and takes away from the story and the emotion and the character
Yes.
in a way.
Yes.
Because really, no matter how well painted a 54 millimeter figure is, it's still 54 millimeters.
Yeah.
There's some things you're not going to be able to see with the naked eye. So what you're focusing on is the overall impression of it, and not so much look how good the iris is on that, or the catch light here and stuff like that. So I think in a way, for storytellers, smaller scales can be better. What made you pick the Holocaust as a subject? Was it, you said it was the poem, but is this something that you wanted to look at before?
Uh, Mostly I get how to say, affected by several strange stories or sad events. And since I decided that I would not do any more tanks and all that stuff in dioramas and everything, I want always to find the subject that has to say something to me first. So if this subject intrigues me, I will give it a go. I like World War II stories. We read the personal diaries of people who fought in the war or were civilian in the war. We see every day many pictures, and we chat. We send each other the picture, and we chat, and we say, "Wouldn't that be interesting to do in the future?" And it's like the theme that we will choose is the one that will give us the biggest impact in our emotional world. So in this time frame, it was that. So we decided that we will do that.
You see, we lately we are actually attracted and amazed by the side story of the war, because we are we are military modelers. We do move um, around conflict wars, but we kind of like the side story of the war. The people side, the human side of the war. So this is where we look for our inspiration. The personal accounts, maybe the civilian side, the civilians side of the war. Uh, you find so many strange and emotional stories if you look. The pictures, like a poem
Yeah,
in the instance, and this gives us this actually opened a new world of modeling for us. You know.
I think modelers have a particularly narrow, strangely narrow view
Yeah.
of war. We only tend to see, or most modelers, military modelers, look at the technology. They
Hmm.
rarely want to engage with the consequence of the technology.
Yeah.
It's just the technology looks cool, and maybe there's a few key battles everybody knows, and you want to do a scene that goes in that, like Battle of the Bulge or Normandy, or something, sort of the greatest hits of World War II.
yeah,
But there's a huge amount of the war that modelers never touch on,
Yeah.
including, unfortunately, the human dimension.
Yeah. But to be fair with people, these human stories of the war, of a war, whatever war, can sometimes get grim, and
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
this is quite discomfort for some people. You don't easily depict a dead man on your diorama.
I think also there's modelling is still largely based on kits,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
there aren't a lot of kits of
Yeah.
civilians and things like that. So, I mean, mini art's done a lot now, but if you want someone selling cheese or rolling a barrel, they got you covered, but not so much, some of the other things. So, I suppose for people that are used to building kits and choosing a project based on a kit they like, it's just not ever going to come up because all the kits are tanks, planes, etc. Why do you think World War II still is such a key conflict for modelers? I mean, a lot's happened since 80 years since, and yet still we
Yeah.
return to this same war.
yeah. It's probably, from my point of view, it's probably from the cool designs, from the colorful uniforms of soldiers on both sides. The technology, as you said, plays a big part in that. And also, I think those ferocious battle have many scenes to depict. So it has been covered by lots of footage. So you have many things to intrigue you. You have books, you have the propaganda reels, you have everything. The only thing is to find a small scene and just put it on the base. build it and put it on the base. So it's much more easier, I think, for the modeler, not exactly to imagine, but to get a snapshot of a documentary, for instance, and make it as a scene. The problem for me, and I think for quite a few modelers, is that they don't let their imagination to find something different, to make a scene with something else, and not just copy a standard recipe, and become someone who can just pop up from the table. Because I think people that are copying recipes, because major names in our hobby tend to do a scene, you can see that many people want to copy that in a percentage and do something similar to that. And they don't let their imagination, their mind, to go free and do the extra mile. And they are just how to say, enclosed in a very small and narrow circle. They don't expand their thoughts, their views. I don't know.
World War II is well supported by kit companies. We all know that.
Yeah.
So people do what they see, as like Chris says. To me, there is another strong point for World War II, apart from the technology or the colorful patterns and all. There is this charm of the ultimate villain, something like Darth Vader. He's the bad guy, but everybody loves Darth Vader. So World War II, now that the scars, the real scars, are gone, people round it up in their minds, and there is this big villain that it's attractive. German tanks, German uniforms, all of these top sellers always, aren't they?
It's like in Star Wars, who looks the coolest? It's the Imperials, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you're on something there as well. I think World War II culturally is kind of seen as the last war of good versus evil. That was, clean in that sense. There was a good guy and a bad guy. I think actually when you learn about it, I'm not going to say it wasn't good versus evil, because anyone that says, well, the Nazis weren't all bad, they really were. They definitely were very, very, very bad. But also there were motivations on the Western Allies that weren't always 100% pure. Like Britain largely fought it to preserve the empire and stuff, as well as to defeat Nazism. So it was more complicated at the time, but over time, culturally, it's become sort of rounded off so that it's just good guys, bad guys, war against evil. We won, a good war, basically. Whereas wars since have all been a little bit more complicated. And I wonder whether it's because we like a good story about good versus evil, basically, and it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, we don't first of all, we don't like to be in any political side or to glorify anyone, because all we do is replicating history, and
that's it.
And that's it. We want to make what makes us happy, or what makes us express our emotions.
Yeah.
So we don't care about politics and stuff. It's out of the the question.
You see, lately we have drifted around history, and we have find some interesting stuff. The kind we were talking about before, the human side. I mean, both in World War One, of course,
which is a little bit neglected.
Yeah, even the Vietnam War, which for most people is a brutal you know, um, a brutal war with no feelings. Most people think,
It's a very complicated war, isn't it?
yeah, and very
Yeah.
For
complicated
people to
geopolitically. Yeah.
to for them people to individually kind of decide how they feel about it. I mean, it's
But we feel we feel we do find some very interesting stuff, and we will do some. We will do some. We will have some walks on other eras too. Personally, I have started looking at the mid-war period, and at both sides of the Atlantic, and I actually dig up some very interesting stuff. And actually, I'm currently working on something from the mid-war period. Um, but still, World War II remains our biggest pool of inspiration.
when I said World War II was good versus evil, I didn't mean in a political sense. I mean, it's a
No,
simple story for everyone to understand, if you see what I
yeah,
mean. No
Yes.
one has any ambiguous feeling about it. It's just and because of that, it's good for modeling because there's a lot of pre-knowledge people bring to looking at the models. So when you make a model, the model will be understood because everyone knows the subjects. And
it's easy. It's easier for people to understand. Yeah.
to go back, I did ask actually. I got off topic a little bit in asking you about that. Some earlier, I asked Chris what input Nikki had on the sculpting, but did you have input on the painting? How did that work?
No, I have blind faith in Nikki's talent, so I never interfere.
Truth is, I was given complete freedom to do as I like. Again, it's a historical subject, so some things are standard, like the stripe pattern of the of the pajamas of the uniform, let's say, or even the banks, the beds were made out of a certain type of wood, so
Yeah.
the wood had to be the right color, so
Yeah, and we found all the small details that
yeah.
every bank had a number. The ladders were the way that we depicted them in the scene. We found what were the personal items that every man could carry with him. So no glasses, no jewelry, no watches, no paper, no pencils. It was only a spoon and a small pot for food and a blanket, and that was it for the labor guys.
We were very careful with this because sometimes it is very easy and convenient to put a newspaper or a set of glasses just to fill a corner or an empty spot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we were very careful on
Or books or
maybe a book. Someone would imagine that an inmate would have a book to read, but they were not allowed any books, not even their glasses or a watch. So
Well, famously, these things were taken off them and sent back to the Reich, weren't they? For people
yeah,
there. So, yeah.
So this guy has just a spoon, a small cup for drinking, and that was because this camp was again a special camp. On the original concentration and extermination camps, things were even
worse.
That must present its own challenges in terms of competition and painting. This minimalism that there's you can't use all the little tricks that modelers use to add interest or to draw the eye or all this stuff. It's like there's a set of rules and you have to stay within them because of the historical setting. Do you think what's the trade-off, do you think, between realism and tweaking things for sort of more emotional visual impact? Do you always stay with realism or do you sometimes just turn things up a little bit?
Not 100%. I mean, we can tweak some things a little bit, just in order to make per se a better reaction and a stronger emotion. So we will stick to the historical period, okay, but we can adjust the scene so it can bring out a stronger emotion.
Yeah, actually, we are quite careful with historical detail. You know, we are very very hesitant and very very careful with deviations. But again, if we could say it with a percentage, let's say 97%.
I was going to say this one was pretty close, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the challenge of sculpting it, so you can't leave all these things out, but painting it also, there's a lot of technically difficult things, potentially difficult things. Well, you've got to be good at painting wood for a start. White is not exactly an easy color to handle, particularly next to black, which tends to suck any nuance out of it. So adding shade and folds and what have you in the inmate's uniform must have been very tricky.
Yeah.
On the white and on the black, but also that yellow as well. You have to pitch that exactly right, that yellow, to get the right level of kind of pop on it.
It was actually it is kind of tricky with all pattern schemes. You know, when you even if you are trying to make a complicated camouflage scheme, but the stripe pattern was challenging too, because it tends to it tends to cover everything, all the folds of the trousers, and it tends to cover everything. If
Patterns tend to flatten the form, don't they?
Yeah,
You
it
lose all the
flattens
sort of
everything.
shape.
If you see it painted with the basic colors, you wouldn't be seeing a knee or an elbow. It's just a long thing that goes down to the ground. So it has to be meticulously painted and shaded to show up. It was quite challenging, and I wasn't very I wasn't feeling very comfortable with it, even thinking of it. But when I started painting, it went fine.
That being said, the black and white on the child is also on the Ghost of Terezin piece. That's also not easy, because everyone thinks, oh yeah, it is. It's just greys, but it's not just a black and a white mixed and kind of varying the mix, is it? There's a lot more in there.
It's not.
I mean, you can do that, but it doesn't feel right. So how difficult was that to do?
It was quite difficult, and it was another thing that worried me a lot before we started before I started working on it. Actually, we even thought of painting the child as a living child, just to avoid the grayscale painting. But again, I saw it as a challenge, and it worked out for me, at least. It was difficult to do, because as you said, it's not just mixing white with black. You have to, grays have a wide spread of warm and cold gray, so you have to stay true on one side. You either go with the warm grays or the cold grays. So it was tricky. Again, for me, it worked out finally, and thankfully for the others too.
So how long did this project take you to do?
It took me about 2 months to sculpt the figure and the bank, and about a week or so for the suitcases. The child is a small miniature from Andrea Miniatures, which is the small child which was with Charlie Chaplin.
Ah, right.
Yeah,
I thought it looked familiar,
yeah,
but I
Yeah.
couldn't place where
it's
from.
that little fellow.
I mean, it's a great tribute that I've seen that and I didn't place it because you've made it so much a part of this piece that I didn't recall where it came from, if you see what I mean. You've made it into something completely different.
Yeah, that's very nice of you to say, because it was something that we really wanted to do. I mean, people not to recognize the figure, but to see the big picture.
Mm. Well, you certainly don't want people thinking of Charlie Chaplin when they see that,
Yes,
if you see what I mean.
yeah,
I think you did the right thing going for the black and white. If you painted it in sort of live, natural colours, I'm not sure it would have communicated what you wanted it to
Yeah, because
communicate.
it wouldn't be realistic because this monument still exists today. So and obviously it was made after the war. So a living child next to it, it would be kind of, you know, it wouldn't be so time matching, period matching.
Yeah.
But a
Yep.
ghost tells the whole story.
yeah. Because
Yes.
the painting is also on the suitcase, so it doesn't actually depict a butterfly. I mean, in real life, but it's that small detail that connects the child with the suitcase monument.
Well, it makes those two a pair, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever think about doing a third, or was it always conceived as two?
Uh, no, I think those two were from this theme were enough for me. I have a theme with butterflies because butterflies depict the transformation. Sometimes they are the harbinger of bad omens and death and stuff. And I like the whole game with a butterfly as a meaning, not only as an insect. And that's why I decided to make several scenes with butterflies, either in real life or allegorically. Because my first scene was from the war in Ukraine, and it was in last year's SMC. It was a child's toy, a duck with a coil under it
Mm-hmm.
in,
Oh,
in,
yeah.
a, in a playground.
Yeah. The ride things they sit
Yeah,
on.
yeah, the one that you climb up as a child and swing all over. And I read an article of a newspaper that said the Russians deployed butterfly mines in the Ukraine region among the civilians. So that was the first, how to say, the first touch that I had and the first idea that I really wanted to do something with butterflies. So I did it. For those who doesn't know, the butterfly mine is the PDT 3 mine, which was used mostly in Afghanistan, and it had various colors just to attract mostly children to pick them up and use them as a toy, and with all the consequences as we can imagine. And the reuse was banned after Afghanistan.
I think it's canister deployed, isn't it? And they scatter over a wide area.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you say, children pick them up, or curious people pick them up, wondering
Yeah,
what it is,
yeah.
and then they go off. And
Yeah. So that was the first. The first, it was Butterflies in Winter. It was the title, and it was just a small piece of a playground with a duck, with a duck toy and some butterfly mines on the mud. That was the first piece that make me want to do the butterfly collection, as I tend to to say for myself.
So what's next? Are you two talking about next year's project?
Yes, we have also individual but also common projects.
Mhm.
We feel each other in things that one can do and the other can do easily. So
Yeah.
we think that probably we will have some impressive stuff.
One one is from late World War II, and that's all
Yeah.
we can say for the time.
Yeah.
Oh no! Don't ruin it. I don't know if you know, I do the secret project in inverted commas every year. I think it's fun to bring something to the show that people didn't know anything
Yes.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's something unfortunate about social media and the internet is, I mean, I kind of think of it as a missing links effect because of what used to happen at missing links and then Euromilitaire.
Mhm.
That in the months before, everyone would, this is my Euromilitaire model. You get to the show and it'd be like, I've seen it on the internet. And it's nice to go to a show and see things you've never seen before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's not only the surprise. It's also, how to say, if people know it, they they expect something from it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if they don't know it, it's always, who did this? Oh, it's great. It's well, at least that works for us. Uh,
I like the idea of people not knowing who
yes,
made it
Yes.
because
yes, of
usually you
course.
go, oh, that's so and so did that, so and so did that. It's nice to see something and then you genuinely know whether you recognize their work. Because if you see it, you've never seen it before, and you think, oh, that must be so and so's, then they've got a style. But quite often, the styles aren't as strong as people think. And it's fun to match it up, fun to find out who made it.
Yeah, but style has a very big part in. Even in the way the scene or the things are put on the base, it can give you a hint about who is the maker of that.
Do you find it hard to come up with an idea that you both like? Or is it generally pretty easy if you've got similar kind of
Uh,
interests?
we have our differences. I mean,
But it's kind of easy.
yeah, it's kind of easy.
It's kind of easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always say we will do this and period. That's it.
Oh, well, that's easier.
That's easy,
The dictator system is a very effective system.
With democratic procedure. We always discuss things and we make a list and then we revisit it
Yes.
and we try to find the most intriguing pieces to do. It's not that we do it for gaining a prize or something in a contest. To tell you the truth, at least for me, I have no vanity at all. I mean that okay, if I get a prize, it's fine. If I don't get a prize, I don't care. I go for the fun of it. I go to meet people like you and all the other guys that I can't see up close during the whole year. I don't demote the competition. Okay, it's a competition, and someone has to win or lose. And of course, everybody wants to win. So we want to make, let's say, our personal history that people can recognize us not from the prizes that we get from contests, but from the things that we bring every year. I mean,
Those special. We try them to be special. That's it. That's it.
I don't know about you, but apart from a few best of shows, I don't remember years later when I look at a model I loved, whether it won a medal or not. No one remembers what it won in a contest. But you remember those really special pieces that people made.
Yes.
It's the piece you remember, not the award.
Not the award.
Yes.
That's the idea. That's the idea.
Also, I think, can you be truly creative when you're building to win awards? You have to the motivation surely has to be the idea and the desire to make that story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's why all those things are above any medal.
I mean, the medals are great.
Yes, of course. Everyone wants to make a trophy.
It's not why you make it.
And that's why we attend the contest, actually. We could just put it on display if we just wanted to show it, but it's not made for this. It's not made for the award. It's made for the fun of it and for the statement of it, and the award comes if it comes.
And it's fun if it does.
Yeah,
but it's
it's funny and it's nice if it's done. Yeah,
but the award isn't going to make you go to the bench and make something.
No,
it's just
no.
We will do it anyway.
We will do it anyway. Yeah. We will do it anyway. We actually share the same aesthetic, so it's not very hard for us to find something to negotiate, and most of the times we end up with the idea we started, but we just change some bits of it, trying to make it more attractive to the viewer.
Yeah.
And that's it. Most of the times it works.
I find working on mine, there's a couple of guys I show my work to, and I might have to start bothering you and showing you as well to get your opinion. But you show it to people, you've got a good solid idea, it's going well, but you'll show it to someone and they'll say, yeah, but if you just turn it 10 degrees that way, it's going to improve it. And is that kind of how you talk when you're working on the project together? You say, look, it's going great, but if we just tweak this, it will be even better.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually happened with the Deliverance vignette, because as I told you, it was all about the angles that the final angle of we had a lot of discussion about it, and the shape of the ground.
Yeah, it's a deceptively simple thing. People look at it and think they get it immediately, but there's a lot of small things you did to it to make it work as well as it does, and that's the tricky part, I guess. Finding the angles, finding the right pose, maybe tweaking that slightly, and that shape on the bottom and everything else. All those little things people don't notice, but that's what makes it work.
Yeah, we had to make some dummy, some dummy bed and mock-up figure, just to put in the angles and take pictures of it and see what we were mostly like. So in a way, it worked.
All right. So it's getting very late where you are. And I want to thank you both for talking to me about this. It must be nearly 11 p.m.
11 p.m.
Like Yeah. So especially I know as well you were work quite late. So you came home, probably ate something very quick and then got on the phone with me. So thank you both very much for joining me. And I hope we can do this again.
Anytime you like.
Anytime you like. Thank you very much for the invitation.
We thank you very much, Chris. It was a pleasure and an honor.
It's been a huge pleasure for me, and as I said, I'll be bothering you a lot on Messenger and things, asking you questions after this as well. I'm sure, getting your advice.
Anytime.
Anytime you like.
Anytime.
Anytime.
Now, if people want to find your work, where can they find you?
Our Facebook profiles are full of works. We both keep them on the modeling side. You won't see too much of our weekend or our holidays with our families. So,
Only me. I'm a little bit, with metal concerts and stuff.
but again, it's mostly
I'll allow it.
It's mostly about modeling. So, easiest thing is just to take a look at profiles.
All right, I'll put links to both in the show notes on the podcast, and also on the blog. Don't forget, there's a blog version of this will be out as well with a transcript, including photos of both your work. I'll put up the two pieces we talked about, and if you could send me some more photos of your other stuff as well.
Absolutely,
yeah, sure, no problem.
And link to all your socials on that as well. So thank you both very much,
and we thank you too again.
And take care.
Take care, Chris. Take care. Thank you very much.
I love talking to these guys, and it's always an absolute joy to meet them at shows. Their close relationship is something very apparent when you meet them, and their smiles and enthusiasm are matched only by their great skills in model making and deft ability to evoke emotion and connect with the viewer. This subject is one increasingly covered, it seems, in modelling. As modellers start to become more interested in confronting the darker side of war, it is a difficult subject to do well, though. Of course, modellers should seek to avoid sensationalism, and pretty much everyone does, but in order to hit right, a piece has to be very carefully made to say it well and avoid the obvious and banal. At times like this, thought is more important to the project than the physical component of making and painting it, and deep research and planning can be vital to evolving a piece that hits the right notes in the right way. A piece that recently caught my eye in another aspect of war is Der Krieg by Jason Whitman. Jason has taken inspiration from the triptych altarpiece of the same name by Otto Dix. Dix served in the German army in World War I for the entirety of the war, serving in the field artillery and machine gun units at the Battle of the Somme, Russia, and the spring offensive of Flanders in 1918. He saw a lot in his war, and it came out in his painting Between the Wars. Der Krieg is essentially an allegory of the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ, seen as the Stations of the Cross on the left, with a callow German soldier marching to the front, a crucifixion in the centre, with the mud and blood and carnage of the trenches, and the resurrection on the right, with a pale ghostly figure lifting a comrade out of the mud, death and corruption towards the light. Although Jason's piece compresses two of these scenes and dispenses with the religious imagery and allegory, it does not hold back from the horror and viscera of Dix's painting. Jason has the callow soldier marching to the front, at the rear of the oval diorama piece, past the corpses and carnage of his predecessors in the foreground. He looks down at them, with his clean uniform, erect, correct march, and unmarked body, contrasting shockingly with the torn, bullet-ridden bodies and spilled organs of the comrades below him. His face at this sight says it all. Jason has not copied the piece directly. Arguably, he has changed the meaning and focus of the images he has referenced. But he has borrowed art's confrontation and emotional punch in a way modellers usually shy away from, and in doing so has connected better with art than many modellers do, and avoided the clichés and banality that can come from saying something well known in an overly familiar way. In a different way, Christos and Niki avoided the oft-repeated images of the wire and the railway car that modellers often use to evoke the Holocaust, and found smaller, intensely personal images to tell their stories. The butterfly on the inmate's finger represents a freedom the prisoner can never have under the Nazi oppressors and murderers, and at the same time it represents the eternal soul, free of the bonds of this earth and this life. In Ghosts of Terezin, we have the heartbreaking image of a child sat with the luggage, as if he is about to go on what we know will be the final journey of his short life. Of course, It is not the purpose of modelling to take on these very heavy subjects, but if we choose to do so, we really need to find ways to avoid the obvious and often repeated, and to find new and emotionally engaging ways to connect the story to the viewer. Before I finish this episode, I'd like to read you the poem Christos and Nikki referenced in their piece. The Butterfly by Pavel Friedman, 1942. The last, the very last, so richly, brightly, dizzyingly yellow, perhaps if the sun's tears would sing against a white stone. Such a yellow is carried tightly way up high. It went away, I'm sure, because it wished to kiss the world goodbye. For 7 weeks I've lived here, penned up inside this ghetto, but I have found my people here. The dandelions call to me, and the white chestnut candles in the court. Only I never saw another butterfly. That butterfly was the last one. Butterflies don't live here in the ghetto. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Model Philosopher. If you would like to support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/themodelphilosopher. And I would like to thank all those that support the show every month. You can also support the show by leaving a 5-star review on your podcast app of choice. I would certainly appreciate it, as it helps bring the show to a wider audience. Finally, I'd like to remind you that you can read a transcript of this episode, illustrated with the models we discuss and more, at modelphilosopher.com. Please do check out the show notes of this show for links to all of Nikki and Christos' work and some other links you might find interesting. Thank you for giving me and my guests your time, and take care.